Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Hello and welcome to Game Over Vancouver. I am your host for tonight. I'm Sam. It's been a bit since I've been here, and I am joined by one of my favorite people on Canucks Twitter and Canucks Army, Cody Severtson. You can find Cody on Twitter at Cody Severtson. How are you doing, Cody?
Well, let me tell you, it was a great evening. It was a fun game from what I remember. You got to see a young prospect making his debut when I don't know, maybe he shouldn't have, maybe he should have. They saw a lot of goals against, a lot of goals for. You saw the best of the Canucks, the worst of the Canucks. And really, that's all you really want nowadays.
That's all you can ask for.
Yeah.
Before we get into it, if you're just joining us, the Canucks lose tonight, 6-4 to the New York Rangers. Before Cody and I do a deep dive into the game, let's give a shout out to our sponsor. Want to bet? Then get in on the action at Sports Interaction. The boys of summer are back on the diamond and March Madness is on deck. Bet pre-game, live and play, or on one of our many prop bets. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN, or in Ontario, you can download the app. 19 plus, please play responsibly. Okay, 6-4, another loss. I think this is the 30th loss of the season, which, like all things considered, not bad. Also, sorry, I want to give it, somebody just wrote Sam in the chat. Nanya, thank you for the warm welcome. I'm happy to be here with you guys.
It's a much more warmer reception to when we did this for Buffalo. And
God.
we very offhand were just like, oh yeah, they're not that good. And the chat blew up with rage at us.
Yeah.
So we're not good friends with upstate New York, but maybe that'll change with downtown.
Hopefully. I feel like
hopefully.
we pissed off a lot of Buffalo fans last time.
I mean they're not doing so hot right now, so it's not we weren't
you
wrong.
Were right.
Yeah.
You were actually right. Okay, Cody, tell me, what was the biggest story of the night for you?
Well, biggest story of the game obviously had to be Artur Silovs' debut. Had 5 games or something in a row in Abbotsford where he, played really well. He had 4 wins, 1 loss, and it was like a .905 save percentage. So the team said, you know what? Demko's almost ready. Spencer Martin's not doing so hot. Let's get the kid up. Ian Clark loves him. Let's see what he can do. And let's put him against Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad, Vlad Tarasenko, Adam Fox. All these absolute ruthless killers from a top team that went to the Eastern Conference Final last season. Let's give that to the rookie, which is very funny, to be honest. Like, just that in a nutshell is just like they couldn't have found like an easier game for him. Like his call up just happened to fall on like a huge like schedule loss, and they were like, he can handle the schedule loss.
Yeah.
Like, that's really funny. Like, it could have been like, I don't know, like the last game. It could have been Detroit, but they were just like, nah, let's give him New York. That's fine. And he did well. Like, all things considered, like he gave up 5 goals, and honestly, it probably could have been 7 because the Canucks like just look so woefully bad at preventing rush chances. It was just awful. So the fact that he came out like not like Mike DiPietro in that game when he like had no chance and he was forced into playing against, who was it, San Jose? It
was San Jose, and it was because all of their goaltenders were down and they hadn't, what was it? They hadn't signed Bachman?
Yeah, it was something weird. Like, oh God, what was it? Like, Richard Bachman
was at that game.
It was really strange. Yeah, it was like Demko had this concussion. Markstrom was injured or something. Richard Bachman was also dealing with concussion or something. And then the only other goaltender they had was like some kid on an AHL deal. And so they'd have to sign another contract but they wouldn't have gotten him in time because he'd have to clear waivers. It was some weird situation. So they were just like, well, emergency recall of DiPietro because he had his ELC.
Yeah.
And then he just got completely shelled. And it was just like this horrible feeling. So for Canucks fans, you're watching this, you're like, he gave up 5, and it's like, whatever. It's against a great team that like has like almost 3 20-goal scorers. Like, he's fine. It was perfectly fine. And it could have been worse. It wasn't the DiPietro situation where you were just like, get him out. This is rude to him, and everything like that wrong with development or whatever. It flies in the face of their entire development plan that they've gone with Abbotsford this year. That's gone pretty well with all their skaters for the most part. So you could trust that there's some kind of coherent development plan with Silovs for this one.
Yeah.
And he did pretty well, where you're like, I think he could actually maybe get in another game here, depending on what they plan on doing with Delia before Demko is supposed to return. Like, it seems kind of set in stone now that he's going to return against Philadelphia whenever that's supposed to be. Like, I think it's Saturday, I think.
Yeah,
but
Saturday.
So yeah, you'd think like maybe they try to get him one more game in between then. I don't know if they even play. I'm so out of the loop on Vancouver's schedule, but if there is another Canucks game from now and then, I mean, it's not going to hurt the tank. That's kind of like what this game said to me too, is like the organization is aware, like they're probably going to lose more games than they win.
They've finally accepted that reality.
They've completely accepted it. Like, they're just shuffling lines. They're throwing Phil Di-Giuseppe on the second line. And like all these things, they all look fine. Podkolzin on the first line looked fine. There's nothing you can really say, right? Like,
yeah,
it's rearranging deck chairs, but at least there's kind of some kind of purpose where they're acknowledging that these little changes aren't really going to matter in the big picture. It's just like, you know what? We're not winning, so let's just see what sticks. And if we can get a 22-year-old who barely played last year and is just an absolute sweetheart. I think I don't want to bring this up because we have other things to talk about, but I've talked about this one interview that Artur Silovs did like probably 17 times in the last 2 years. And I think you know what I'm going to talk about, but it's when the Abbotsford Canucks do their Christmas recap or their Christmas interviews for all the players, and they asked Artur's, what's your favorite Christmas movie? And he's like, Home Alone, because I identify with Kevin McAllister because he's always alone, and that's how I feel around Christmas time away from my family. And it's just like the most heartbreaking thing. And he had this interview last year where like he was not playing. He sat on the shelf for like a month without playing any games, and then they just sent him to the ECHL to like keep him busy. So you're just like heart broke for this guy who's just like such a sweetheart. He's just trying his best and happy to be here. So the fact that he came up, showed well, got an NHL paycheck after what they did to him last year, you're like, God bless his little heart. It was a little arty party.
It was pretty good. You're getting a lot of love in the chat. Ben Lipka says, shout out to Cody for pulling double duty, Abby and Van tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Lachlan says, we Severt stan, which is, I love that. Well done, Lachlan. I think Cody should put that in his bio. Right next to Broadsea Award winner.
I don't know if I have enough characters available left in there. Trying to fit Broadsea Award winner in there was a little tough.
I'm happy we made the cut. ShadowNet says, Silovs denied Panarin and a Hattie several times. I consider that a W. I think that's
a huge win. Great
point. Yeah. It was, I think, all things considered, a much better NHL debut than Mikey DiPietro got.
Oh, yeah, because that one was like, when he debuted too, I think everyone in the fan base, everyone in the organization acknowledged just like what a colossal failure it was that he was playing.
Yeah.
And at least in this case, it was just like, no one was angry about him playing. And if you were,
no, I feel like most people were
misguided.
excited to see him play.
Yeah, because that's kind of where the team's at now, where it's just like anything new is fun. Like, if I've been talking about this kid, Arshdeep Bains, in the Abbotsford system, who's like been playing really well lately. And I feel like we're kind of getting to a point where he's going to get like into call-up consideration, like late in the season, where that's like, they'll literally just like give anyone who's kind of earned it an opportunity. And that's kind of like going to be the saving grace for like what's clearly another just like lost season. Like, if they're going to accidentally win games, at the very least, it'll be because, hey, we've got this young prospect playing who, you know, people are excited to see. It's the local kid from Surrey, and he's fought his way to the top. Like that's what people are going to want to see. So if they accidentally win, it's okay because there was a good reason behind it. Instead of like, I don't know, Brock Besser like pops off and has like a 6-point night against Colorado or whoever's like leading the table right now. Because those wins suck. Nobody wants to watch that anymore. They want meaningful losses. They don't want like pointless wins.
I want like a feel good story that ends in a loss.
Then that's exactly what this game was.
And then that way, even if you win, it's like, okay, but it's a feel good story. Like I would have been, I didn't want them to win, but I would have been happy if Silovs somehow won his debut.
For sure.
Like
that would also been nice, but like, this was a good like a good like moral victory. The moraliest of moral victories where it's like, you know what? You can't win them all, Artie, but you did your part, and it's a victory in the hearts of Canucks fans where you didn't get the actual dub, but you helped them lose, which is a bigger dub in their eyes.
Exactly. And that takes us to our second segment. If you're still with us, the Canucks lose 6-4 tonight, 30th loss of the season. We are going to talk in our second segment about tanking and whether the Canucks are in fact finally tanking successfully. So if you know somebody out there who loves talking about tanking, get them to come watch. Go follow Cody on Twitter. Go follow at SDPN Sports. Don't follow me as usual. I loved the stat, and I noticed that Just Incredible has already put this in the chat, but at the end of the first period, Shorty was like, Riley Stillman led the Canucks in ice time in the first. And my immediate thought was, they have finally figured out how to tank. Like, no more of this, you can't go ask the players to lose. Like, nobody has ever said that is how you should tank. Like, obviously, you're not going to go up to Elias Pettersson and be like, hey, can you please just suck? Right? Like, that's not what we mean when we say tank. But, like, Riley Stillman leading in ice time. Silovs starting. Like, all of these things say to me that this organization has finally turned the corner on tanking.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, it's all the little things, too. It's just, like, that pile up where, Andrei Kuzmenko sees his ice time, like, plummet during the Tocchet era and, like, his points, like, fall down. And then only when he scores does he reluctantly like have to give him more ice time, and it's still like not enough to win. But like then you see like, I mean, Phil Giuseppe, like I will say, like he's looked really really good for Vancouver since being called up, and like he's one of those guys where you're like, he's playing with some gumption. I would not be opposed to seeing him play with Pettersson on it for a few minutes because he's playing hard, he's looking good. Same reason for why they're like trying it with Podkolzin, like. Whatever, try anything. But by that same token, it's also like if they try that, it's purely because they're just like, you know what, it's okay if we lose those lines, if we lose those minutes, it doesn't matter. We're gonna give Stillman 25 minutes tonight. We're gonna cut Quinn Hughes time because we don't want him hurt. We're gonna cut Ethan Bear's time because why not? Ekman-Larsson's hurt, so I guess Luke Shen will eat all his minutes. It's just like, I know this, you're working within the constraints of who you have available to you, but some of the deployment things, you're just like, especially when it's at home.
Yeah.
And like you have like last change and you're like, really? Like Anthony Beauvillier doesn't crack 20 minutes, even though you just traded for him. Brock Besser's not even cracking 17. Garland's almost at 18 minutes and like he's playing well, but like not enough where you're like, you don't
think he's having a resurgence under Rick Tocchet?
I mean, okay, he is.
It's very small sample size.
A small sample size. Actually, I shouldn't finish that joke because I might get in trouble with Canucks PR again. Yeah, Connor Garland's been really great. He's playing bigger than his size indicates, as he always does. He's a wonderful player, and I always look forward to watching his shifts. But yeah, all these little things where it's just like you look at minutes after some games, and you're just kind of like, oh. Neil Zaman, they called him up to play less than 10 minutes and nothing on the penalty kill. Okay, that's weird. Curtis Lazar, I mean, he got injured, but like he barely plays any games and he's like on a 3-year deal for $1 million. Like they're not even trying to like boost his value as maybe like a trade deadline piece for like a team that needs like a fourth liner. it's all these like weird things where you're just like, oh, okay, we're just trying whatever. Sheldon Dries, like almost 15 minutes. Like, okay, we're clearly in tank mode, and like that's fine. But I almost like wish they kind of came out and were like, instead of like, oh, we're trying to win some games here and get the systems right. It would be kind of like great if they came out and were like, you know, we're probably not going to win a lot, so we're just going to see who's worth keeping around next year. And that's like kind of the motto, because I mean, was it they're tied with Arizona right now?
Just Incredible says Arizona is ahead of us.
Oh, no way. Oh, I got to
Which
refresh my
is like
table
the
then.
best news possible.
Oh, that rocks. Oh, what a bunch of losers. That's amazing.
Can you, like, if I were Arizona, I would be so upset. Like, you were handed ideal tank conditions, okay? Like, the whole arena situation, the 14-game road trip, like, all factors to tank for Bedard, and, like, they just keep accidentally winning.
Yeah, that's actually really funny. Like, you almost want to be like, now who lost the OEL trade, guys? Haha. But like, it's
just
very funny.
Dylan Guenther.
Well, he's in the WHL now, or wherever he is. So is he really that good?
That's true.
But yeah, you have like Anaheim, San Jose, Chicago, Columbus below them, and they're all essentially intentionally tanking. Like San Jose, I guess you could kind of quibble with because they have so many like bloated contracts that they're kind of locked into trying, even if they're not intentionally tanking. But like Arizona and Montreal, those are full on just like, we're going to go with the kids and we're going to suck. Jordan Harris is going to be our number one guy. Arbor Jacki is going to be our number one defenseman, even though he's like a rookie. Like pure intentional tank moves. And then there's Vancouver, who are loaded up with the most $5 million winger contracts in the league, just sucking so hard unintentionally. Just the worst goaltending from 3 different netminders for an entire season. Like, you couldn't have asked for like a better time for this team to suck, because Connor Bedard's just waiting, doing his little interviews post game where he's like, oh yeah, 2011 was a hard time for me. Like
Lachlan just said they've yeeted themselves out of the race.
Are we allowed to mute people in chat, Lachlan? Come on, you're better than that. Oh my god. But yeah, like the Arizona thing is especially funny because like at one point Travis Boyd was their like number one center, and like Lawson Krause was their number one winger, and shout out to Lawson Krause because he quote tweeted one of my Connor Garland memes and then quickly deleted it when he realized he probably shouldn't be doing that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
You've got to like qualify as like best friends with Lawson and Claire now, right? Because you had the whole,
I think so.
You had the whole like rank their Halloween costumes thread with her.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, which was hilarious.
That was really funny. And then this year, I thought the tradition was going to continue, but then she like went as the legally blonde girl, whatever her name is, and I was like, oh, I can't really make fun of this. I'll get in trouble. So that died pretty quick. But I will say, Butterpig Kraus recently followed Murph Mello on Instagram. So I guess you could say we are the best of friends.
Dog best friends.
I want nothing best for the Krauses.
Yeah, I love that. If you're just joining us, Canucks Lose 6-4. We're actually we went really off topic, and we are talking about how Cody at Cody Severtson is Twitter best friends with Lawson Krause's fiance Claire, who's awesome because she fully took Cody's roasting of their Halloween costumes a couple of years ago, and it was great.
Yeah.
So you should go look that up if you haven't seen it. It was probably more interesting than the game tonight.
It's been that entire interaction was more interesting than any Arizona or Canucks game has been this season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like actually, I guess whenever Arizona's in Toronto and they accidentally beat them, that's like pretty interesting. But
they also apparently beat Tampa tonight.
That rocks. Good for them.
Yeah.
That rules.
Truly incredible stuff. I can see on my OBS that I've somehow managed to disappear from the screen but I have
Perfect.
also fixed it. So
Excellent.
if you're still with us, thanks for bearing with my insane computer. I don't know what's happening. We are talking about tanking. If you are in the chat, tell us, are you happy with the way things are going and the fact that the Canucks finally seem to have somehow come on board with tanking? Like, do we think this is deliberate? Like, is this deliberate now, or are they still just accidentally bad?
It has to be like 50-50, right?
Yeah.
Like obviously when they started the season, you had Bruce Boudreau and Bo Horvat both being like, "Oh, if we don't make playoffs, like it's a disaster, like it's complete failure or whatever." So like the goal for this season was like playoffs or bust.
Yeah.
So I'm sure none of them saw being bottom 5 in the league as like their likely trajectory, but I mean at this point it just seems like there's so many player decisions, like the Stillman thing for the first period,
Yeah.
or where you're just like, you know, I know coaches like have their different interpretations of players where, they like, how gritty they are or how hard they are along the boards, even if they get like shelled every single night, or how tall Tyler Myers is when he's standing up. We all have our crutches. We all have things we lean on, and coaches do too. But some of the things where you're just like that one goal where Tyler Myers is backing up through the offensive zone after taking a shot into the shins of a New York forward. He starts back skating through the neutral zone, stops moving his legs, even though New York has 3 men rushing up with possession. And I was literally watching the play develop, and I was saying to myself, you got to keep skating. 2 seconds later, Artur Silovs is stretching on the ice, full splits, cross ice. It's a goal. And he just has no chance on it. I'm like, if you're a coach and you watch this play where your $6 million defenseman, like your tallest, biggest boy, is just stopping skating, that would get him benched on like most teams that are actual contenders. But this team is just like this. They talk about habits and wanting to do like the simple things correctly all the time, and then they just let stuff like this pass all the time because there's nothing else there to work with.
Yeah.
It's
like, what are you
very
gonna do instead?
strange. Yeah, it's like this weird like this contradictory philosophy where like they're so desperate to play the right way, but there's nothing in the system that can actually play the right way. So they're just stuck with like bad habits until their contracts get moved for the 9th overall pick for some other bad
Oh
contract.
God. The chat is pretty happy about tanking. Nanya
Oh
says,
yeah.
yes, we're going in the right direction. Down, down, down. ShadowNet says, yes, I'm so happy. This is awesome. Why couldn't we have done this with Bruce? That's the real question. A great question. Just Incredible says
they were.
Yeah, they were, but accidentally and blaming him for it. Just Incredible is ecstatic. Says, I still think they're attempting not to tank, but they are just bad. 17 goals allowed in last 3 games. Grade school structure can't help them.
It is pretty crazy that after the last game, everyone was like with Detroit, everyone was really mad. Like this is the 953rd time that they've given up 5 goals this season. And then, but this time, because it's Artur Silovs, no one cares. They're like, oh, it's 6 goals.
There's also like, I think, a difference between like, giving up 5 goals to Detroit.
Yeah.
And giving up 5 goals to the New York Rangers.
That's true. Because also, too, it was like when the Islanders were in town, and it was like the stat was they'd only scored more than 2 goals like 3 times all season, and then they gave up 5 to them. And you're like, of course.
I want them to give up 5 goals like every game for the rest of the season and just set like an all-time unbeatable record.
Yeah, like the worst penalty kill in history, most goals against, the first team in, what did Drant say on Canucks Talk? It was like the only team in the hard cap era to finish a season with more than 4 goals against per game. Like that's astonishing for a team that was legitimately hoping for playoffs by the end of the year.
That's wild.
Like, it's crazy. Just like I remember watching the preseason too. I'm sure you did too, where they went like 1-5-0, and you're like, uh-oh, it's gonna be like last year, but no one expected it to be like even worse. And the storylines have just been so miserable.
Yeah.
the Rachel Dory thing. You have the ownership thing. You've got weird life-threatening injuries to like 7 players. Ugh.
It's just been
It's
an
just like,
all-time depressing season.
yeah, at least now we're kind of getting into the like the fun part of the depressing season where like Rick Tocchet like actually seems to be aware that like the team sucks,
Yeah.
and he doesn't really hold back in his post-game interviews where he's just like, "Oh, you guys watch that game tonight? Whew, we need to take it back to grade school tomorrow. This team sucks." And you're like, shut out, man. Like, you at least get it.
Yeah.
And like before, it was kind of like this raging against the dying of the light. Like, yeah, we're giving up 17 goals a game, but I don't really see the problems, guys. We're battling. Now, Taka's just like,
A for effort.
yeah. Taka's just like, this guy sucks, man. I can't do anything with this. And that kind of rules. And that like changes every loss to being like less depressing with each passing one, where then you just get into the tank territory and you're like, you know what? The coach knows it. And if he knows it, he's telling his buddies from Pittsburgh, in Rutherford and Alvin, and that'll probably bring everybody on the same page. So you can feel a bit better about the direction.
Fingers crossed. Canuck Clay is in the chat. Hi, Clay. He says, my son was there tonight and there on Monday night. Night and day difference in entertainment, same result.
Yeah, like that's all you can ask for, right? If you're going there to spend $26 on a, like, what did my sister tweet? It was like an 8-ounce cup of wine is like 22 something.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going there, if they're gonna give up 6 goals, the most you can hope for is they at least score 4 themselves to at least give you some kind of like joy, something to cheer for.
You're totally on the same page with ShadowNet, who says during the Willie Desjardins era we get shelled but score very few goals. Now we get shelled every game but still score a decent amount.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. They're fun embarrassing losses instead of just embarrassing losses.
You got some fans. Nanya says the Tocchet impression was amazing.
Oh, thank you. I'm very good at impressions. I will not dish out too many. You know what impression I've been working on lately? And I don't know if you watch the show. You know Suits?
Yeah.
It's a terrible show, but
it's a great show. I love when like law students come in to do interviews and they're like, "Is practicing like Suits?" And I'm like, "No, Suits is TV.
Suits is TV, and nothing works as it does on television." But I keep marveling at that show because the lead actor, Gabriel Macht, is so bad as Harvey Specter, and his monotonous delivery of dialogue just cracks me up so much.
Okay,
like,
give us your Harvey Specter.
It's just I have to be like really dead faced. I have to be like, if you don't do this right, it's your ass and you're an idiot for doing it wrong. And
that was actually good.
It's always about Lewis. It's always about Lewis Litt too, which bothers me because Lewis is just a sweet weirdo.
Lewis is the best character on the show.
He's the best part of the show, and he's the only one that seems to know how to act, which is very frustrating because they're all so mean to him all the time. And so when Harvey's just like walking up to him like, Lewis, you tried to do something smart, and that was bad. And now you're going to try and fix it, and that's stupid.
You actually are good at impressions. This is kind of terrifying.
It bothers me. I just be nice to Lewis, and that's all I can say about that. But anyway, okay. I digress.
Yes, this is like maybe the furthest off track we've gotten on the show.
Dangle's not going to be too happy with this one.
We're not getting roasted by Brad Marchand, so it's fine.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Sorry, Steve. had to be said. It was right there.
Got his ass.
All right. If you're still here with us, or if you're just joining, Canucks lose 6-4, 30th loss of the season. Team Tank is on the rise. Tank awareness is skyrocketing. Cody is not fully convinced that it's intentional. Like, we're getting there. What would it take to convince you that they are fully trying to tank? Like, what moves do you want to see? Like, somebody in the chat earlier said they want to see Atu up here, like, for a couple of games. Like, what would it take for you to be like, oh yeah, they are gunning for 32nd?
If they're genuinely gunning for 32nd, you would see Thatcher Demko shut down for the season. Like, just no ifs about it. They'd be like, you know what? He's coming off like a really dangerous injury. There's no point in him risking it for nothing games. Let's just shut him down. Let him rehab for the rest of the season. He'll hate it. His agent will hate it, but it's for the betterment of his long-term health. If they do that, I will be absolutely convinced that they're like committed to the tank. Maybe if they trade, I don't know, Garland for nothing, or like anyone with a minor injury, if they shut them down, boom, they're committed to the tank. They call up Justin Dowling or whoever from the AHL to just like plug and play in the fourth line. They're just like, doesn't matter. Get him up.
So
play him.
You know how they're like Demko's planning to back up in Philly if they're suddenly like Demko's not backing up.
If they're suddenly like he's not backing up, or if he plays and then the next day they call up Spencer Martin again from his 3 games in Abbotsford, then you're like, oh, they don't want to risk him like doing permanent damage, so they're just going to keep him out, which
I like this test.
Probably is the smart thing like to do regardless of tanking, like it.
Yeah.
Even if this was like Jim Benning and he's like, oh, I think we can actually make playoffs if we just play really good down the stretch. Like maybe they would try to play Demko for the rest of the season, but I legitimately think like if
it's not worth
losing,
it.
Yeah, if you're losing or you're trying to win, like a guy coming off a knee injury who's signed to another 3 years at $5 million, and he's your like a stud goaltender, like you would want to shelve him for the rest of the season and be like, come back next year as best as you can.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to waste it on this like crapshoot of a season. So you would just shut him down regardless if you're going for it or not. So I don't know, like,
you all have
maybe, maybe they try to trade him. Maybe
that was one of the suggestions. I don't want to see it, but I'll be convinced if they trade Demko. Nanya also suggests promote Stillman and Myers to the top pair and play them 30 minutes a night.
Well, I mean, they might have to if OEL is out for any kind of like long term. I don't remember seeing what took him out of tonight's game, but like he hit his leg or he took a shot off the leg. Maybe the chat can tell us what exactly took him out of the game, but he only played like 5 minutes, and then he got the tweet from Canucks Twitter saying that he would not return for the rest of the night, which is usually a pretty bad sign.
Yep.
So have to keep an eye on that. I mean, not that shutting him down technically would help the tank. If anything, him continuing to play would. Maybe he's injured and they actually force him to play. All those ridiculous stories about players being rushed back actually is true when it comes to OEL because they're committed to the tank. But this is allegedly, folks. This is jokes. This is all jokes. Don't take anything I'm saying.
We're gonna get in trouble. Jeff King says, wouldn't they have to go 24-3 to have a shot for the playoffs? Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah, this is I've been told that I'm the most negative of the 3-game over Vancouver hosts, so I think we're pretty safe from me making any playoff predictions. I would like them to lose every game from now until the end of the season. That's my dream.
Oh yeah, like anything that breaks records or is just like something you can root for, like. Yeah. Like what was it? There was that one team that like went like on an 18-game losing streak. Like was that Columbus? Like last year, the year before? It was something wild. If the Canucks could go on that, like just really cement like how bad the season's been, because at some point it just becomes funny, even if you're a player.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, wow, we really can't buy a win out here.
If you're going to be really bad, you have to commit to being really bad. That's my take on it.
Yeah. And so folks, if you're of the mindset that this team isn't trying to be bad, look at where they are in the standings and imagine how worse it could get if they actually tried to be bad.
I mean, there was like a month ago, Drance was like, they can't finish last. Like the schedule is too easy. And they are really putting the lie to that.
Yeah. That was like actually really funny. Like he's had some takes where like, you like usually they don't come true or they come true like months later, and this one's like a week later. It's just like, oh no, they're actually legitimately pushing for 5th worst in the league after 4 games. Like that's so funny. I love that for him. I love that for his brand.
Jeff King says the Sabres went 18 without a win last year.
Oh, okay, that's the goal. That's the benchmark right now. If they can do that, they're at 3 losses in a row, or maybe 4. I don't know. The NHL tables, I can never tell if they're updated or not. But if they could get to 18, baby, that's Connor Bedard season right there.
Fingers crossed. Okay, Last segment of the night. We're running a little long, but there are a lot of people in the chat still. So if you're in the chat and you have any questions for Cody, or there's anything you want to talk about, throw it in the chat. Throw your tank suggestions in there. Cody, give the people something to look forward to. Cody covers the Abbotsford Canucks quite regularly. Is there anything that we should be excited about?
No, guys, I'm sorry to tell you, but there's nothing coming. The prospect pool's a joke. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that bad. As negative as I am, there are reasons to have hope. Danila Klimovich, who last year looked like a complete bust, and even like the first month of this year looked like just a complete washout, turned his season around. He had the Sedin's magic working in his favor, and even though he's kind of on the schneid right now, hasn't really produced lately, has really kind of turned his career around to where he might actually be one of those guys who could be into call-up consideration if his two-way play keeps up. Same thing with Arshdeep Bains. Started really poorly, but then just suddenly became an elite two-way player in his matchup or in his minutes at the AHL level. For a comparison, for some who don't really know and they just want player comparisons, think of Arshdeep Bains as like a Zach McEwen type, just a kid that, I mean, okay, first off, Zach McEwen isn't the greatest NHL player. He's found a role as a goon and a fighter, and, you know, props to him for landing that niche. It doesn't really help a team, but, you know, kudos to him. But in terms of commitment in the AHL to two-way play, to back checking, to being hard on pucks, to creating offense, Arshdeep Bains has got that gumption. The kid clearly really wants to play for Vancouver one day, and you can see it in the way he plays. Love all the little details of his game, and I think he might get a call-up later this season. Niels Hoglander, he's getting some confidence in the AHL. You know, he's getting a little chippy. He's showing some kind of rat to his game. Not quite unlike Brad Marchand. He's constantly in scrums, throwing elbows, and, you know, being a little S-word disturber. I was close there.
Imagine like Niels Hoglander and his like angelic face being Brad Marchand.
Oh man,
that's glorious.
That's a good combo, but that guy's way. Oh, I could go off on that guy's face. That guy's got a jaw that could sell me anything. That guy's butt chin. Whoo! Hoglander, goodness, should get into sales when he's older. If this whole hockey thing doesn't work out, yeah, if this doesn't work out, I'm telling you, he could sell me anything. But yeah, folks, don't worry, it's not completely hopeless. There's reasons to live. Telling you,
the reasons to live are in the chat. Everyone is very, very pro tank, pro losing. Jeff King says, I can see the Canucks going 4-18-5 down the stretch. Nick Pearson says, I think we can get to 20 in a row. I like all of your optimism. Like, if we can do that, we are absolutely in Connor Bedard territory, and that is the dream.
And they say Canucks fans are negative. Look at all this positivity in the chat.
I know. I can't believe anyone thinks this is negative. Like,
ridiculous.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Cody. You guys, if you don't follow Cody already, you're missing out. Go follow him at Cody Severtson. Follow at SDPN Sports. I'm at Samantha CP_. And I am back on Saturday to talk about the Canucks and the Flyers.
Oof. Rough.
I am going to struggle watching that game. It's going to be rough, but we're going to have fun. Well, like, you know what? Worst case scenario, we'll just talk about Gritty.
Oh, there you go. That's a dream.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Canucks lose tonight 6-4 to the New York Rangers. Artur Silovs gets his debut in the NHL. Puts in a great performance, prevents Artemi Panarin from getting a hat trick, and the Canucks are well on their way to tanking. Have a great night, and we'll see you Saturday.